Hello everyone, and welcome to Casa Nightmare. In this episode, we're going to share with you 3 stories about spooky locations. So without further ado, let's get into it. In the heart of the dense shadowed woods, nestled among towering trees, dwelt an old woman who lived in a cabin. She was as old as time itself. Her gnarled fingers twisted with age, and her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly wisdom. It was said that for centuries she called these woods her home, weaving spells and enchantments that kept intruders at bay. But it was not mere wanderers she sought to deter. No, her hunger was far more sinister. She preyed upon the lost and the wayward, luring unsuspecting hikers deeper into the labyrinths of the forest, only to ensnare them in her web of dark magic, making them her slaves for all of eternity. One fateful day, a beautiful young hiker named Sarah, a brave soul with a thirst for adventure and a heart full of wanderlust, decided to explore the mysterious woods. It wasn't long before her excitement turned to panic. Her compass began to malfunction, and soon she was lost. Desperation clawed at her as she wandered deeper into the heart of the woods, her fear mounting with every step. And then, just when all seemed lost, she stumbled upon a quaint cottage nestled among the trees. Relief flooded her weary bones as she hurried towards the welcoming glow of the firelight flickering through the windows. She knocked on the door. It opened instantly, as if Sarah had been expected. But as she stepped across the threshold, a chill swept over her. The air was thick with the scent of herbs and decay, and the shadows danced menacingly upon the walls. And there, in the center of the room, stood the old woman. With a crooked grin, the woman welcomed Sarah into her home, offering her food and drink in a voice that shook Sarah to her core. Although the old woman looked sweet and innocent, albeit a little strange, something about her rubbed Sarah the wrong way. Trusting her gut, Sarah made her excuses and fled into the night. Then the old woman broke out in cackling laughter that echoed through the forest and in Sarah's ears as she ran. For hours, she stumbled blindly through the darkness, the oppressive weight of the forest pressing down upon her like a suffocating blanket. But just when she thought she could run no longer, a ray of moonlight pierced through the foliage above, illuminating a path through the trees. With renewed hope coursing through her veins, Sarah followed the light, her heart pounding with each step. At last, she emerged from the depths of the woods, blinking in the soft glow of the moon. Relief flooded her weary muscles as she collapsed onto the forest floor, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Finally, she was safe. But as she lay there catching her breath, a rustling sound caught her ear. With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, Sarah turned to see the old woman emerging from the shadows, her eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. With a triumphant smirk, the woman raised her gnarled fingers, and in an instant, Sarah found herself back at the cabin, ensnared in a dark web of magic. And so, as the night stretched on, Sarah realized she was trapped in the clutches of the old woman, doomed to serve her master for eternity. In the quiet, moonlit hours of a chilly October night, a group of 5 friends ventured into the heart of the old cemetery on the outskirts of town. They laughed and joked nervously as they weaved through the weathered tombstones, their footsteps echoing off the mausoleum walls. Among them was Nikki, the brave one who dared her friends to explore the graveyard at midnight. There was Jake, the skeptic, who scoffed at the idea of ghosts and ghouls. Emma, the timid one, clutched her sweater tightly around her, her eyes darting around at every shadow. Michael, the thrill-seeker, who relished the adrenaline rush of the unknown. And finally, Alex, the storyteller who spun tales of the cemetery's haunted history. As they wandered deeper into the maze of graves, The air grew heavy with an oppressive silence, only broken by the occasional creak of a rusted gate or the distant hoot of an owl. Nikki led the group to a particularly old-looking crypt nestled in the shadow of a weathered oak tree. "Let's see if we can summon a spirit," she whispered mischievously, her eyes glinting with excitement. Jake rolled his eyes. "Come on, Nikki, don't be ridiculous. There's no such thing as ghosts." But Nikki was undeterred. Ignoring Jake's protests, she produced a battered Ouija board from her backpack and placed it on the ground in front of the crypt. The group gathered around, their fingers trembling as they placed them on the planchette. "Is there anyone here with us?" Nikki called out into the darkness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the planchette began to move, spelling out the letters S-C-R-E-A-M on the board. A chill ran down Emma's spine as she looked up, her eyes wide with fear. "What does that mean?" she whispered. But before anyone could answer, a low guttural growl echoed through the cemetery, sending shivers down their spines. The group froze, their hearts pounding in their chests as they scanned the darkness for any sign of movement. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to tremble, and terrifying whispers began to emanate from the darkness. With a scream, Nikki grabbed the Ouija board and flung it at the nearest tree. It was then that they realized they were lost in the darkness of the cemetery. In a desperate bid for survival, they clung to each other as they made a mad dash for the cemetery gates, the ghastly wails of the undead echoing in their ears. Just as they reached the safety of the outside world, they heard a sinister voice whisper in the wind, "You can run, but we will forever follow." And with that ominous warning, the graveyard fell silent once more, leaving the group of friends to wonder if they had truly escaped the horrors that lurked in the shadows of the cemetery. In the heart of the small town of Millbrook, nestled amongst overgrown weeds and towering piles of rusted metal, lay the notorious Junkyard. Legends whispered among the children claim that it was haunted by the ghost of Old Man Jenkins, a recluse who was said to have made the Junkyard his home. One moonless night, a group of adventurous kids, including Sam, Emily, Ben, and Lily, dared each other to explore the eerie depths of the Junkyard. Armed with nothing but flashlights and nervous laughter, they crept through the maze of twisted metal and forgotten treasures. As they ventured deep into the labyrinth of scrap, the air grew thick. Suddenly, they heard a rustling noise from behind a towering stack of car parts. Heart-pounding, Sam cautiously approached, his flashlight trembling in his hand. And there, emerging from the darkness, stood a figure cloaked in tattered rags, his face obscured by a tangled mass of unkempt hair. His eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity as he fixed them on the startled children. "Who dares trespass in my domain?" His voice rumbled through the silence. Ben stepped forward, trying to muster up some bravado. We were just exploring. We didn't mean any harm." But the man's lips curled into a twisted smile, revealing rows of yellowed teeth. "Exploring, you say? Well, well, well. You've stumbled into the lair of the keeper of the Junkyard." Emily's grip tightened on Lily's hand as they exchanged nervous glances. "Please, sir, we'll leave right now. We won't bother you anymore," she pleaded. But the keeper merely chuckled darkly, his gaze piercing through them like daggers. "Oh, but you've already trespassed, my little ones, and in my realm, there's only one punishment for such transgressions." With a sudden fluid motion, the keeper lunged forward, his hands outstretched, exposing his claws. The children screamed in terror as they scattered, running blindly through the maze of scrap, their hearts pounding with fear. But no matter how fast they ran, they could feel the keeper's malevolent presence lurking behind them, his eerie laughter echoing through the darkness. But finally, Just when it seemed that they would be unable to escape the keeper's grasp, they managed to find their way out of the junkyard. Breathless and shaken, they knew they would never forget the chilling encounter with the keeper and vowed to never return. So that's all for this episode. We hope you enjoyed, and if so, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.